Does feel like they need another support, unless we're going to see like a Pango support coming out. Haven't been the biggest fan of Pango support as of late, though. I say that I haven't been the biggest fan of the hero right now in this meta. And obviously it worked well last game, but you do already have the counter in the Grimstroke, so it's certainly not as easy of a game as it was last time around. And now Polaris will go into a bit of the reserve time to have a long think about this. What are you predicting, John? Do you think offlane Pango here? Will they run at pos 4?
It's a bit open because we've seen Xavius play Pangolier 4 before, but we also just saw Force play Pangolier off. Ideally, I think because of the Grimstrokes there, just kind of make that counter pick, countering a support instead. Have something else in the offlane that can still take control, still not be too bothered by the Grimstroke, and give you some needed team fight. Issue is, there's not many options there. Tide was already picked, Mars was banned. You could try for the Beastmaster again, but Beastmaster versus Grimstroke, we saw that in game 1. It did not feel great. All the clumped up summons just doesn't work in your favor. They go with a Kunkka, so perhaps that's our Force hero on the offlane now. Kunkka offlane could be an option, or a Natsumi pos 1 Kunkka could be the way it goes as well. Fairly open. I think it's more likely we see Force play it. I think we have seen Nico play that before as well. So offlane Kunkka with a Pango feels a lot better. And no matter what your matchup there is, it's still a Kunkka. You still got Tidebringer to play with. You're really tanky in that lane. I think the Grimstroke's going to have to work double time to catch him out in the creep wave with the Stroke of Fate. And maybe if he has some aggressive pos 1, like say a Jug, you can kind of just play with that slow Inkswell spin. They ban out the Jug themselves, though, not wanting to deal with it from Polaris. So we'll have to see what options are left there for KSH on his safe lane.
I do like the offlane Kunkka. Like the build-up's very similar to the mid Kunkka as well. Like you don't go for the bottle, obviously, because you don't really require it. But I believe it's a lot of the time we see Heaven's Halberds, BKB, and usually later on, of course, you go into the Aghanim Scepter because it's just a ridiculous amount of team fight you get with Torrent Storm. It is especially that point where you get to the Aghanim Scepter is when the offlane Kunkka becomes somewhat ridiculous. In fact, some players just tend to rush it. Yeah, they might go BKB and just straight Ags. Forget about the Halberd in the middle or whatever else you want. Still, final banouts are still going. YG, another pos 1 to remove. It's hard to know what they want to ban, though, because you don't know what YG's going to pick up. They get rid of the Razor, though. So I guess you could see like a Life Stealer coming out here, but I mean, nobody likes Razor. That's the hard part. And nobody enjoys going against this hero. Life Stealer does seem kind of nice, though. I mean, the only problem will be you can't really deal against the Ember, but you can pretty much take out everyone else. You could go back to the Troll yourself if you're YG. Can't remember seeing Troll Warlord being picked up very much by YG in the past. They get rid of the Luna on Polaris Esports end. You still have options like the Terrorblade as well, but into the Kunkka, I think it is going to be a pretty hard matchup.
It is a bit tough. There is a lot of magic damage on hand, and they will go with the Life Stealer in the end, so good call out there. Mike, Polaris.
Oh, hello.
Okay, so it's a Natsumi pos 1. No, it's a Natsumi pos 1 Ember, Lelouch with a Kunkka mid. Enigma coming out for Force on the offlane, with Xavius taking that Pangolier 4. Enigma. I know how to feel about that. We have not seen it here in a long time. It still plays into how Polaris likes. They love these high-pressure push heroes. You could go for a Overlord build-up as well in the Enigma. You don't need to emphasize the Black Hole too much. But it's an interesting twist. The Kunkka matchup for young PH to deal with is not too bad. Again, Tidebringer damage counts as physical. It's not pure. So the Resonant Pulse will block that off a bit and allows the Void Spirit to kind of trade in lane a bit better. I'm just keen to see how much Force can get on the Enigma. I don't think it's going to apply too much pressure onto KSH. You've already got the Grimstroke, so the Eidolon spam is not going to be an easy time for Force. If he doesn't micro it well, again, in game 1, with the Beastmaster and the Nature's Prophet, the Grimstroke just kind of works that lane really well. So I think Force will have to micro intensely in the lane to get as much as possible. Might even have to commit for the early jungle and have Xavius take the solo offlane and Pango to just get leveled if it does not work out too well. But beyond that, A lot of good team fight, a lot of good back and forth. I think once you hit the BKB timing on the Enigma, it's going to be hard to cancel off the black hole. Nothing to pierce through. So there's some good scaling here from Polaris, but I think YG has a nice early start as well. Really even. Hard to call it from draft. Maybe YG. I just feel like holding back the Pangolier from the roll. It's going to remove one aspect of the team fight. And Young PH and Void Spirit's going to have a bit of a better game compared to his Storm last time.
All right, fair enough. I mean, I look at this Enigma pick, and I don't think it's necessarily going to be the easiest offlane either. You can just kind of rage and just rush the Enigma, and once you do get that initial hit off, it's kind of hard to run away unless you do have Black Hole up. But we'll see how it does go as we are into game number 3. Again, one of these teams has to leave tonight, so you don't want to hide any drafts that you might want to test out. Well, I say test out. This is probably the worst time to test drafts out, but you get my point, John. You might have an idea that you think will work, and you just kind of bring it out here if you are Polaris. And I don't think the Enigma's too bad. I mean, it's got that ultra late game scaling as well, where you just can't ever ignore the fact that Black Hole is always going to be this busted ability that just goes through everything. You just can't stop it.
Yeah, that's kind of like the Face's Void, right? Like, if you don't have a good counter to Void, Chronosphere is always going to be a massive issue. Same thing with the Enigma. There's a bit of a smoke on smoke, but Polaris aren't looking to be aggressive. I think they're just looking to cut off aggression from YG as the smokes do fade. So, setting up some forward wards. YG will be spotted out by Polaris's early ward. They're going to be able to avoid confrontations there. But it's going to be interesting. I'm still going to be so curious as to how much Force can get and whether or not Zalrain can constantly just land a Stroke of Fate and just delete those Eidolons, especially once you hit, say, level 3 Stroke of Fate at level 5. That's where that lane just feels a little bit untouchable for the Enigma, and again, early jungle might have to come out here.
Yeah, I just can't see it being an easy lane whatsoever for Force. I mean, there's just so many ways to deal with the Enigma this game. And sure, like, on paper, it seems kind of good because you can deny a billion creeps away from this Lifestealer, but with the Inkswell, Stroke of Fate, just rush him. Generally speaking, there won't be much he can do, especially if you have a level in Rage up. Still, we'll see, as we are going to start with the bot lane, where you will see Force immediately just denying off creeps here with his Eidolons. You are going to have Xavius moving his way down to the bot lane to help out. And in fact, they're going to throw Lun in there. So they don't even want the Lifestealer against the Enigma. They're going to go down the Tide route. And for now, they're going to run an aggressive tri-lane with Zorain, KSH, and Skill Late.
Yeah, I like seeing this from YG. You recognize that the Enigma is just there to deny creeps. You have a decent matchup against the Ember and the Snapfire as well. Natsumi's got to be careful. Level 1 for Ember is not amazing in dealing with these situations. Of course, for the side of YG, I don't think they should overcommit to the tri-lane. A lot of EXP is going to be denied away, and the supports need to get levels up fast, especially, I think in this case, you might want to prioritize the Grimstroke, actually. Just having the Soulbind up to prevent the Rolling Thunder is going to be super important, and that does mean you're going to need to soak in the lane. Soaking a 3 does not tend to go too fast.
I mean, they are doing a great job of zoning out Natsumi, but let's kind of go back to the point that eventually you are going to be at an XP deficit. A Skill Late, again, can go in with the Earth Spike. We'll see how long they want to commit to this aggressive tri-lane. I mean, I love the fact that we've got an aggressive tri-lane here in this elimination game. And in fact, they are going to bring over Xavier. So you are going to have a tri-lane versus tri-lane situation. Feels like we're all the way back in like 2015 now, John. Great to see between these two teams. I'm just still wondering whether either of the supports are going to rotate out, but it doesn't seem like it. They're going to leave Tide versus Enigma in that bottom lane. And I suppose while we do have a quick chance, we'll have a look at the mid lane where Lelouch is going to be against Young PH. Feels like it should be a pretty even matchup between these two in the mid lane. I think we are probably just going to be heavily focusing on top lane instead, as they are jumping in now. Inkswell is there. KSH going to be able to get it off onto Xavius. But Xavius is going to be cookied away by Mavis. It's going to be salved up just fine.
Yep. Again, just maintaining that aggression. So much damage coming through Mavis. Gonna be alright for now, but they are posturing quite well. I think the supports on YG have a better time. It's their long lane. They get to be a lot more aggressive as the creep wave goes up and down. They've got the better control of their position, so they manage to just trade hits a lot better. For Polaris, it does become a bit better once they hit level 2, level 3. You get the Swashbuckle and Xavius. It starts to kind of line up for some aggression. You can play with a cookie combination as well coming out from Mavis. But again, because they're so EXP starved, that's going to take a bit more. Mavis probably just going to look to stack up while he can, which is one benefit. Now you can go in and out, give some EXP between waves, stack up for your pause 1, and try to run from there.
Natsumi again getting dived here against KSH. Which is fine with the Ink Swell, but no, it was very late. Still, they do land the stun in the end, but they can't dive the tier 1 tower. In the meantime, Skill A did pop a Mango, but he could not have enough mana for the Hexa. So very unfortunate, as I believe they were relying on that Hex to be able to finish the job. And Natsumi, he is going to be just fine to remain within the lane.
Yeah, both pause 1s just tagging along quite nicely. They are keeping up in CS quite well. So overall, the tri-lanes are rather even. No kills coming out, no Force Blood yet, despite 6 heroes in the lane. And I think that plays into almost to Polaris' benefit, because their tri-lane field's a little bit weaker on the offensive. So as long as their defense is holding up, YG not finding kills kind of sets them back.
No, I'd agree with that. I think that YG are very reliant on trying to find kills in this lane. Keep in mind as well, you have left this Enigma Tide alone, so both offlaners should have a relatively good time. Somewhat. But Polaris, yeah, they're having an okay time here, as they might jump onto Skill A now. They're going to try and fight back, but Skill A will be the first blood. So Mavis, he does take it for the team. And YG now, I mean, you've got to start asking yourself whether this tri-lane's even worth continuing.
I don't know if it's worth breaking up at this point. The issue is if you toss your, say, Lion or Grimstroke down bot, there's enough levels on the Enigma to just kind of dip jungle anyway. I think at this point you might just play the same game as we were seeing from Polaris, dip in and out of the lane, stack up the triangle, go back, try to apply pressure and look for an opening, and kind of play tag from there. Still, a great start for Polaris already. 1 kill up, and they do relieve some of that pressure coming in from YG. YG, for their part, they still have a forward vision. They know there were stacks being built up from their cliff ward, so they should be able to invade down the line, but they're going to need to invade early, because at some point, if the Enigma does work its way up there, or even just the Kunkka works its way up there, those stacks aren't going to last too long. It's going to be a lot of gold coming out for Polaris.
Oh, certainly so. Lelouch, he's had a very good game thus far. Mind you, Young PH is just behind him in terms of CS, but still a very close matchup as top lane. KSH, that's a lot of damage, and he does not have Rage up. He went 0-2-2, and it's really costing them now. I suppose YG just confident they wouldn't be able to actually find kills on the dire end, but they are. They're doing just fine, in fact.
And that's where a bit of an issue rises up for the Lifestealer. In comparison to what Polaris has, Lifestealer doesn't flash from all too well. Ember can deal with the jungle quite fast. With the Flame Guard up, he's a lot more mobile as well. So this slow start for KSH does not set up for a good scale here.
Yeah, he still can't stick around because the rage just isn't there. Natsumi, though, will miss the chains on the Lifestealer, so they won't be able to go for more. Let's get a bit more damage out onto Zorain, but that'll be about it. KSH desperate to hit that level 5 mark now on the Lifestealer, just to have that kind of backup protection on this hero. How's our bot lane going in the meantime? Well, as you could kind of expect, pretty boring. 35 and 8 for the Tide, 31 and 12 for the Enigma. Absolutely zero action happening apart from the creeps going down. You're going to ask now whether it's more concerning than the Tide or the Enigma's getting the levels. Both of them are pretty darn strong. I suppose Lun more so before the BKBs are up, but a pretty big concern.
Invisibility.
Top jungle.
Yeah.
X is out onto skill lane. Young PH going to make the jump in onto Mavis. Not quite enough damage yet, but he should eventually have enough, and does. In the meantime, skill lane, well, he's going to find a courier before he does go down, so a bit of added value there for YG. Lelouch will chase for a bit more, but he just really wants the stacks to be cleared up before the Void comes in again. So that'll be about it. They'll stick within XP range, but they won't be able to contest the stacks being taken.
No, it's again a massive amount of gold coming out for Lelouch. And we talked about this early. Mavis was doing a good job of zipping in and out of that lane to kind of play in the lane and get something done for the team with his stacks. And that does mean Polaris benefits a lot more early on compared to YG from the tri lane. They just make use of it on their economy a lot better. YG though, they're not lagging too far behind. In fact, all of their cores are having a better time except for the mid. And Young PH is at level 8. He can look to play aggressive. Is working towards his first item first, and that looks like it might be the Yules coming out soon. In fact, no, he's just holding on to the Staff of Wizardry, looking at what else he can get still.
Jump in mid lane. Xavier's obviously lacking a lot of levels right now. The Pango's trying to get those levels back, but in the meantime, bot lane, they found the tide, so Force able to commit the black hole. Does get Lund down. That'll make it a 2-4 now. YG, I mean, they're going to try and get something done. Mavis is going to be spotted out here by Young PH. He's going to get silenced, and well, he might eventually get a cookie off, but in the end, he is still going to get stunned up. A nice pick off here for the Void Spirit as he does rush back into the mid lane. Meantime, Natsumi did take over the mid lane on the Ember, but Young PH, he's back.
Yeah, they just kind of keep it balanced. Young PH, again, after a really strong start, can just itemize towards the Yules or the Ags with just the Staff of Wizardry up, depending on what he feels like he needs to rush. And you are starting to get a little bit more here from YG. Young PH barely behind Lelouch, KSH having a better time than our Ember as well, so the Lifestealer managing to bounce back in good form. They're already applying pressure into the top tier one. Not the fastest push, but they will catch out Xavius here.
And if they will, Inkswell will land just fine. No swash up for another second, and Natsumi, he's going to be forced to rotate and try to get something for his team. But Zorain's got the infest there from the Lifestealer. So KSH making sure that his support does remain healthy. I suppose Natsumi, it's not too bad that he's rotated here anyway, as there are creeps to farm. He desperately does need the net worth. All things being said and done, even though the tri-lane looked like it worked out for Polaris, it doesn't seem that way when you compare net worth on the position ones.
Really doesn't, and you are getting a little bit more from KSH. I think the Natsumi could have used a couple of those stacks himself. Instead, it all does flow into Lelouch. So they wanted to prioritize the Kunkka's timings, which will slow down the Ember just a bit. And it's kind of hard to think about Polaris' draft, because on paper, your scaling hero is the Ember, but it's not like it's the be-all and all of scaling heroes on the Ember. I think Lifestealer has a lot more damage output towards the late game. Still getting that chase done on Lund.
And Rolling Thunder's there. Force, who can join in just in case they need the damage. Lund, he's going to try to run, but there is no running. Lelouch able to secure the kill, but top lane, who have they got? It's going to be Natsumi again on the Ember. They have the perma silence, or do they? And Natsumi able to barely make his way out. In fact, he even got skill A as he did Remnant over. So there you go. Natsumi finding his first kill of the game.
Yep. Works out in their favor. 2 kills across the map for Polaris. They'll be able to go in for the defense as well.
Mavis going to drop here to Young PH mid lane. Top lane, they are still fighting those Zorain now to drop here on this Grimstroke. We just kind of talked about Natsumi lacking a bit of farm, but with these 2 kills coming up, he does certainly seem to be escalating quite a bit faster. It just feels like something that YG don't really want to be doing right now, is feeding lives away to the Ember.
Definitely not. At the very least, they find that top tier one, so it opens up the jungle for KSH to farm in just a bit more. You can see Polaris starting to clump up bot. They've been really focused in on hammering down on Lund. They will be able to clear out that tier 1 tower as well in quick.
Gee, I mean, they're still ahead in net worth, but the way they're playing this game out, it doesn't seem to be very positive for them.
No, it certainly isn't. They're losing out in the kill trades. They are defending their towers quite well. The bot tier 1 will eventually fall now, but it did take a little bit more time, and that means YG can maybe focus on mid, look for a bit of a shove in themselves. Not the fastest push lineup in comparison, but as long as you kind of equalize against the Enigma, you kind of feel good. Still Polaris, rushing Blink on Force. So once you have that Blink in the Enigma, the Blink Black Hole is going to be there. BKBs to follow, I'm sure. And again, once the BKB is up on Force, they don't have cancels on the side of YG here.
Xavier's going to show himself, but they ignore him to instead try to go after Force. He's the much bigger kill right now, and they've got him. In fact, they got a soulbind down onto Natsumi, but he should be just fine to get out. No real risk of him dying. Instead, however, they do find the Pango, so that'll be a secondary kill now. YG will happily take, but Natsumi now does want to go for the fight. In fact, he gets the chains out, kills off Skill Lane onto Zorain. They'll get another support, and look at Natsumi. He just keeps rushing forward onto Lun. They should have a third here, I think, and they will get him. A double kill for the Ember. 5-0-3 now on Natsumi. And it seemed like a great start for YG, but they just couldn't get themselves out in time.
No, they just couldn't retreat. And Polaris, they've got insane amounts of mobility with a pause whenever. It's just so aggressive. You jump in, clear out the softer targets quite fast. Not enough coming through from YG afterwards. They were also fighting at the numbers disadvantage. KSH not showing up at all. I think that is the right play though. You want to just leave your life stealer alone to farm. So there's still a bit of a sacrifice Natsumi makes. When he does join in for the fights, he's not farming. And in comparison, he is still lagging behind that life stealer. There is a smoke out here from Polaris though. They do not have the black hole, but maybe they find a good pickoff. Zalrain showing down Bond.
He is. Rolling Thunder committed. Xavius will not second guess himself. Just goes right in for the easy pickoff. Natsumi, nice dodge on the Ink Swirl, but Young PH has rotated. Was he? He got X'd up. Yeah, he got X'd up mid lane. They are still at least going to be able to take the Pango though. So it's a support trade. Not the biggest deal for either team. In the meantime, mid lane. I thought they were going to try and chase down Lelouch, but he does have a Shadow Blade up already on the Kunkka. So no real risk of dying as it's a 9-12 now. KSH has been free farming this whole time, but he is still behind Lelouch on this Kunkka. So, you know, the Kunkka's not really a pos 1, but the amount of damage and utility it does provide in a team fight can be quite ridiculous. So I think it does matter that he is still ahead of KSH.
Yep, I mean, it's going to hit that Silver Edge timing. The damage just skyrockets as we've seen before from Young PH actually. So you've still got a smooth ride of scaling here on Polaris. You've still got a lot of item spikes to wait out for. The side of YG looking to force mid. They're smoked behind KSH. They're going to have to be careful as there is that blink up. No blink on Force. He's just rushing to BKB. So no blink black hole to worry about. But you still have to worry about the Ember finding good angles and the X, the kisses coming through from a mile away. And there is a lot of staggered team fight that Polaris can bring out here.
YG. Not going to go all the way for that tier 1 mid tower yet. It's Polaris, they are posturing. Ready for that defense if necessary. Nothing like a blink coming out on Force yet. Still the BKB to be worked on, and he did go back for the Midas earlier on, so pretty greedy kind of build up here from our Enigma's top lane. Xavius, he's gonna get Aether Remnant here, and Young PH should have plenty of damage. He'll take his 6th kill of the game on the Void Spirit. So both Spirits having a very good game thus far. Thing is, it doesn't feel like either team's finding any objectives. They're just kind of focusing on hitting creeps right now. No real rush for either side. This could be one of those very late kind of games by the looks of it. So mid lane, they've got the Ember, they'll commit the Ravage, they've still got the Earth Spike, but do they have the damage? You bet your ass they do, but the Black Hole is there. Force gonna try and turn now. Lunt's down, KSH, he may drop, but no, he gets the Infest in time. In fact, Young PH is gonna jump right back in, but they'll turn around again. X is there, Young PH, has he gone too far? Cookie's gonna land, Earth Spike's out, but Young PH is also gonna drop as KSHL is forced to fight, but at least he does find Lelouch. So it does end up getting the Kunkka kill in the end. Another very messy sort of engagement, but it was a 2-for-2 trade. And in the end was quite even for both sides.
Yeah, I think you'd feel a little bit better in YG taking care of the Ember and the Kunkka. Those are your heavier scaling heroes, whereas on YG side you trade off your mid, sure, and you lose your Tide. The Tide, not as big of a loss. I think you're happy enough to accept that trade as the game, again, just stays static. After these fights, they just can't line up for a push. There's enough D-push from either side to prevent any major movement onto the objectives, and it just means, again, the game kind of stays static. The map stays relatively the same for the past few minutes. Mid-tier 1 is being shoved in a bit, and they jump in again on Savius.
Yeah, they do. In lane, he's going to be fine though. Cookie was there. X out, Lelouch going to try and turn onto skill lane. That's a lot of damage. Already 750 damage with that silver edge up. I think this is where you start to get a little bit more concerned as YG now. As you just saw the one-shot potential of the Kunkka. That's a cleave as well. So it's going to be pretty painful for the rest of the team, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's not something the sports can really deal with. Neither Zalrain nor Skill Lay really have the HP to last through the combination from the Kunkka, and they're always going to be safe pickings for Polaris to eat up. So I think they're going to have to watch their positioning. A bit of a deep dive to try to kill off Xavius. He is still a fairly tanky Pangolier. But I think for YG now, the key thing is trying to build up for young PH's Ags timing. They've already have this blink up on Lun. I did see him trying to rush Ags himself earlier on, but realizing he needs to reposition himself to get good Ravages, he does opt for blink. So once you have the Ags on the Void Spirit, you can just blink in, get the silence off, follow through with a Ravage, or conversely start with a Ravage first, get the silence afterwards, and clean up from there. I think Polaris, with a BKB sitting on Force, they need that blink up. Once they can threaten with a BKB Black Hole blink in, and that's when YG is going to think really hard about the team fights, because again, they have nothing to stop that from Polaris's end. Like, Polaris will always have the trump card in team fights because of that black hole.
Lane, again, just a lot of safe play between these two teams. Only the side lane towers are gone. Only one tier 1 each team so far. You're getting to the point where KSH is going to have an Eye of Skadi up. That's how many creeps he's been hitting, John. Just non-stop this man, playing an RPG this game. Every dream for, every POS1's dream here is what KSH has been able to achieve. Just jungling forever. Meantime, Tide gonna drop. Lun gets caught out. Lelouch will take another kill on the Kunkka.
You were my better half.
They try to go after the mid-tier 1 in the meantime, but neither side is really committing. Maybe with the Tide down, you could see it happening for Polaris. But they also back off. They're just not interested yet.
Yeah, again, playing the static game, I still wonder if the win conditions on either side will overwhelm. Like, a Lifesteal is a pretty good late game, of course, but so is Ember, so is Kunkka, and Lifestealer has to worry about the Enigma, so I don't think it's all too safe for YG to play slow as well. But they just don't feel comfy enough. However, they have the Ags up and running in Young PH, so maybe this is the point where they look to play aggressive, jump in, get the Resonant Pulse silence off, break up the team fight quite well. In fact, to an extent, the Resonant Pulse can allow them to cancel Black Hole if the BKB's not popped from Force beforehand. As long as you kind of keep your range up, you can kind of clip him from the side and get a good silence off. A bit tough, though, and again, with BKB, you are likely just to pop the BKB before Black Hole anyway. Speaking of BKBs, you've also got one on Natsumi. So holding down the Ember becomes a lot tougher. I think that pressure is going to ride on Skill Lay with his Blink. He's got to blink in, get the Hex on the Ember, hope the follow-up's there. But we've seen a lack of damage every single time they try to jump the Ember. He is fairly tanky, so I don't know if that window is going to be enough, as there is a smoke here from Polaris.
There is. They've got the Blink Black Hole with the BKB up as well on the way now, but Soulbind's already there. They've got the Pangolier. Natsumi's still trying to go. Meanwhile, the Blink's on the Courier. They've smoked too early. It won't matter though. Skill Lay is going to drop as Natsumi. He'll keep going, but now the buyback is there. Skill Lay is going to rejoin the team fight. They go for a bit more now. They'd love the Ember, and Lun's in. He won't pop the Ravage yet, but eventually he does. A big torrent though. Might buy him time, but no, the Black Hole is going to be out on the Lifestealer. Natsumi, he is going to make it out just fine. As KSH, he's the one to drop. Young PH is still trying onto Natsumi, but he's unable to get the job done. As these torrents, they just keep connecting on two heroes, and Natsumi, he is still not dead. The boat run buff just keeping him alive for so long, and they'll get a full team wipe.
That's what we've been saying for a while, Mike. YG need to find the angles quite well. They commit onto this Ember, they don't manage to clean them up. And the damage output from Young PH is pretty good, and the damage on KSH is pretty good, but in the face of a Black Hole with BKB, they have no counterplay. So I think YG They need to figure out what they need to do, because I think Polaris has a lot more angles to come in with. They've got the Torrent, they've got the X, they've got the Boat, they've got the Black Hole, they've got Rolling Thunder, even though it's cancelled off by the Soulbind. They've got the follow-up for everything else, and it just makes it harder for YG to actually jump in. They don't have the most mobile heroes in their toolkit outside Void Spirit. They only have the Ravage, and that's blocked off by the BKBs anyway. So your team fight is not as all-encompassing here from YG, whereas for Polaris it's always relevant with that Black Hole. Still, with a Black Hole down, perhaps this is where YG figures, alright, no Black Hole, we don't have Ravage, but we can force bigger fights still. We could give it a shot. The issue is Kunkka's cooldowns aren't too long.
Gonna step away, Natsumi. Oh, he's not gonna have the Sleight of Fist. Top lane though, Xavius is still looking around here as KSH and Skill Lei hanging around, just pushing out the creep wave, and they'd never found out the Pango. They do infest onto Skill Lei, but this is all under vision, so Polaris, they know about this. They're going to jump in fact, and well, the Hex is out on the Kunkka. They're trying to get the damage in time, but Lelouch is a bit too tanky, as now he'll get the Boat out with the Torrent. That'll be Zorain gone off the bat. Skill Lei, I can't really say he gets out either. They've got the X up again. That'll be another pick-off here onto both supports of YG. It's Polaris now 9k net worth ahead. YG just feels like they've waited way too long in this game number 3 to really get going, and now it's a massive struggle. Because it's not even over yet. Force is going to have BKB and Black Hole back up in a second. Just 25 seconds away, and you could just start looking towards that Roshan soon.
Yeah, they can just easily take control in that tight area. Force rushing and refresh next. One Perseverance already up. So down the line, you're going to have to deal with double Black Hole, double BKB use. Not going to be fun. The Tide Ravage with refresh is also nice, but again, you just don't do anything against the BKBs. You have to wait for them to shrink down to the 6-second duration. And we're not quite at that point in the game yet. These BKBs are still relatively fresh for both sides. So that aspect's gonna take a while to hit up. Lun is trying to rush the Wind Waker. Perhaps that could be a bit of a play. Maybe Wind Waker your ally under Black Hole. That could be one way to save a bit or take away some of the damage. Give a window of invulnerability. Still a ways off though.
Have found out the Snapfire. Mavis is still fine though. Lelouch is here, and man, the damage output. Natsumi though, he went down top lane. Skill Lei able to pick off the Ember. In the meantime though, Lun is still not out of danger quite yet. They will be able to secure another kill. I suppose the Natsumi kill was nice, but not quite as nice as a Void Spirit and a Tidehunter.
It's a lot bigger for Polaris. YG trying to use the space to push up top, but look who's up here to defend. Force with that BKB Black Hole, he's ready to play. And they do play it safe in YG, sensing something is wrong. I don't know if they can really take this. They've got to get the Hex off onto the Enigma first, and they just don't have the numbers here from YG.
Now I'm going to back off at the right time. I mean, that Black Hole is going to be a pretty big problem for them if they get caught.
Middle tower is under attack.
AC also up now on Lelouch. More tankier Kunkka in case he needed the extra armor. I can tell you he didn't. But why the hell not just add it on? Especially against the Lifestealer, who does kind of require those right clicks to get the job done. It's YG. They'll continue trying to apply this pressure, but there is a smoke coming now. Lelouch has a double damage room, but no, they're going to ignore the top tier 2 and instead just rush the Roshan pit. I mean, that's the only reason you really want the top tier 2 tower anyway, is YG. And this Roshan, it is just not going to last. My goodness.
So much minus armor, so much damage coming through from Lelouch. The AC plus the Solar Crest plus a little Shredder makes short work, and they're going to be able to look for this fight if they want to, but no, they play it safe. They managed to catch one. They still managed to scan out Zarin.
Oh, not quite there.
Oh.
I think Xavius was going to be off the mark anyway. And they'll get the Tinker Ward down now, but it's all too late. I mean, you still hold the 11k net worth lead, though, as Polaris. I mean, it's... You've got an Enigma, you've got Lelouch who's just dominating on this Kunkka. Sure, you've arguably got the better carry scaling later on, but what does that matter? I mean, KSH, he's got to worry about so many different things in these team fights. It's not as free as just run up and hit people. Lelouch now might find young PH again. You'll set it there, but it won't matter because they have the cookie, they have the turret, and they have another kill onto young PH. Skill A. He's not out of the woods yet either. He might run right into Force, and he will. BKB forced out. Force. No Blink Dagger available. He already committed it earlier on. I guess in some way, Skill A just kind of wasted a BKB charge on Force. And somehow made it.
That's actually pretty good. Forcing out a free BKB charge all the way down to 7 seconds. Remember, it's very important for the Tide, for YG's control, that these BKBs go back to 6. So they'll have less to wait for, easier for them to recommit on the Ravage, and kind of play from there. So, important BKB use forced out is nice. YG are still playing on back foot as Polaris. Playing in the bot jungle, they've got everything they could ask for. H is still running for 3 more minutes. The damage output for Lucius over the top. Natsumi has his Ags up with his BKB, so the Ember is also a massive issue. YG, their control really hangs on Ravage or Blink Hex. Maybe you could argue Void Spirit with the Resonant Pulse Silence and the Remnant could be one factor as well. It just doesn't feel like young PH can afford to be the jump in. It has to be either the Tide or the Lion, because you can't risk having your Void Spirit die early on.
Lelouch in tier 2. The drop just fine as top lane Lun and Xavier's going at it. Lun gonna try and TP away. Does he make it? Oh, the turret. Not going to be on the mark, and the TP was already too quick anyway. You're in that position right now as YG, where if you lose a couple heroes, you're probably going to be looking at your high ground getting taken here by Polaris. And they certainly have the damage, that's for sure. So it's just not getting any easier. Like I keep looking back at KSH. He's still farming, and that's perfectly fine, but I'm still wondering how it's going to transition later on. You still have the black hole, you have the torrents, you have the cookies. Just so much to worry about for this poor lifesteal. The mid lane does seem like they're forced to BKB out of Natsumi now. So another little win here for Polaris, but you know, it's negligible. Not too big of a deal.
At the least, Natsumi's is down to 6 seconds, so a shorter BKB duration might open up more opportunities for the Hex, for the Ravage, for the Earth Spike, and that's still a slight benefit for YG. You know, they'll take what they can get. They're not finding the engagements to their favor, so might as well take some resources away. Still top tier 1 fall, tier 2 next, not gonna last too long for Lelouch's Onslaught, as they will go for the mid. Long lasting tier 1.
Oh, black hole, young BH, he's been caught out straight away. They just don't even think about it. You've got a refresher orb up on 4, so he's got a second one ready. Zorain gonna try and run. I doubt he gets out though, as Natsumi will just continue to chase him down, and eventually surely has the kill. In fact, Xavius might just take it for himself. They even commit the kisses as KSH was inside, but I think what they really wanted was the secondary black hole and the life stealer. They won't be able to get it, but they might be able to go high ground instead and force some buybacks.
On the bright side for YG, no black hole means that Ravage is going to be there, but the refresh is up, so there's still an option for team fight here. Polaris, YG still has to be cautious on the high ground despite still having their Ravage up, and towers just melt. They've got the damage on Polaris.
Here we go, boats out, they've got the black hole, but there's your Wind Waker. It's certainly buying a little bit of time, and it's more than enough. Lund saves the day here for KSH, and now the turnaround. A 3-man Ravage, a big Earth Spike out, they've got Force down, and this could be the turning point of the game here for YG as all the tips come out for Lund. He thought about this in advance, knowing it was going to be a big problem. KSH needs to find as much as humanly possible while they still can. Xavius should be fine to get the Rolling Thunder and just get himself out. In the end, it's not quite as much as you would have liked, but they are still trying. Young BH does spot out Xavius. He gets to the low ground though. They have the Yule Scepter up on the Pango. So Lelouch now going to reinitiate this team fight. Tidehunter going to fly across, go to the high ground with the spider legs, but is still going to drop. In fact, young PH now has been caught out. X is there, dissimulate away, Astral Step. Lelouch, he has the Silver Edge, he might be able to chase him down. Not quite, he'll just leave him be now.
Oh man, I love this. We were talking about that Wind Waker play from Lund for a long time, and it comes true. And the save is enough. As long as KSH stays alive, they can look and oh.
Yeah, Natsumi, he's not done yet. KSH, he was with them. He'll be okay to TP with the Rage, but I can't say the same for Skill A. And we've seen that attempt quite a few times now with the Infest combo on Skill A. But it's very rare we've seen them actually finding a pick-off.
Just doesn't line up. Looked like they might have been able to bully out Natsumi. He was out of mana, but the backup was there, and they didn't have the numbers in YG. It's a lot harder for YG to play that hit and run. But our Lifestealer, his damage is just a lot slower. Savius.
PH. Step away to the right side. TP. Oh no, he knows he's not going to make it. They have got him. Xavius eventually gets there in time, and now young PH needs to find another way out. But I don't think there is much of one. He's got no more step charges, so he's down. Massive pick off here from Polaris. The game only continues to get more difficult for YG.
Step lively now.
Yeah, they're stuck in a really tough position for YG. They find good high ground defense, but are not able to really get much on map. And now Polaris with a smoke might be able to catch some stragglers. They've got the numbers disadvantage on YG. They do not have Ravage for a bit longer. It is back up. I think they've got to play high ground here.
They may. Skill A, X up. He tried to blink in time, but it's going to be no good. Soulbind, though, is out. But it doesn't matter. Lelouch, 12-1 and 12 on this Kunkka, has just been so dominant. In fact, he's been so dominant, I can't even remember when he died last time. He's died once this game, I just can't remember when it happened. It's such a long time ago.
He's just nearly unkillable. Like the boat buff up now with the AC, with the Satanic. This guy has so much armor, so much HP, and damage reduction that it's hard to rip through. You can see the Lifestealer does benefit off of that. It's just a slow process.
Uh-oh, forces in, Black Hole's there. Lana, he's not in position for the Wind Waker. He was not ready for it. Natsumi cut him off. Gives him the tip as well, just to let him know about it. That was a great chains out from Natsumi to make sure that there will be no interruptions in that Black Hole. As what only gets worse now is secondary racks to be taken by Polaris. And the top lane is free to take to boot, John. There is no tier 2 tower to protect that open racks. Lund's gonna buy it back, but they've got nothing for the Lifestealer. He's short 800 gold. This could be the last team fight for YG. So set up and try. Jump in with the Inkswell. Xavius has the Aeon Disc though, so he's fine. Soulbind out again. Lund, you still hold the Ravage. I just doubt they'll have enough damage without their Lifestealer around. It's very hard to imagine, but they've got to try at some point. They'll try to jump into on Lelouch. Meanwhile, Natsumi just jumping in the back lines. The Ravage out now. Black Hole, though, immediately up from Force. He was just waiting in the background, preemptively, just knowing it was coming, and here we go. Into the time they go onto Skill A, and that has to be GG now. No buybacks left. YG, it's a shame to see them have to leave in round of 2 of the lower bracket. They are holding out for the Lifestealer to be back up, but I don't know what KSH can do by himself. He'll try, but they ignore him completely. They're just going right into the Ancient. It's like KSH doesn't even exist right now. Tip's coming out, they just call it. He just does nothing.
Yeah, and it's a back and forth series, but Polaris does manage to win out in the end. A dominant performance here in Game 2 and a really strong draft. You know, Nat Flex with the Enigma coming out. We were expecting, maybe something else to come true. Maybe the Kunkka going off lane with the Ember mid. Instead, they just run the Kunkka mid, run the safe lane Ember for Natsumi, and just have this Enigma off lane that worked against the Tide off lane, a safe lane that YG was running. The tri-lane on tri-lane, we talked about it early in that game. Like, it felt like YG needed to find those kills early with their lineup. If they weren't finding the kills, then the defense of Polaris was holding up, and they were getting a lot more with their Enigma. They were getting a lot more with their Kunkka. There were no early rotations to kind of cancel out Lelouch's scaling, and Polaris just overwhelmed. So, well played from Polaris, but yeah, YG, unfortunately, they're out.
Who is that we have for an interview right now? Do you happen to know?
No, that's their manager, I think.
Okay, okay, it's Nika. All right,
Yeah.
all right, here we go.
Okay.
Hello, Nico. Congratulations on your victory here, sir. How are you feeling right now?
Hold on.
Well, I'm not sure if he's at the headset right now. John might be AFK. Nico, hello. Are you there, sir?
Hello?
Hello. How you doing?
Hello. I'm doing great. Thanks.
Congratulations on your victory. I'll ask straight off the bat, against YG, were you guys confident going into this best of 3 series?
Of course, we are very confident.
Nope, fair enough. I mean, game 1, it was a bit... Can you explain what happened during game 1? I mean, maybe the draft didn't work out. Mike, there's so much noise in the background. Nico, what's going on? You guys having a party?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
No,
About the
no.
game one, I think. About the game one, I think I think the draft was kind of went to the. I think the draft was very bad for us because we don't have anything to handle on the course, and we are heavily countered. And on top of that, I think we played very bad as well, and like we take very bad fights and stuff.
I see. Fair enough, John.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Nico, I've got to ask. This is the burning question everyone has. What's up with name changes? So I asked, right? Like CML said, it's because of you. You changed from Nico to Force. What's the story behind these name changes? Why Nico to Force? What's up?
I think it has something to do with the Berserk and like
Berserk.
Yeah. I got the name from the score of the first anime,
Okay.
the musical score.
Oh,
From the score.
yeah.
Okay. And everyone just laid on. So now we've got CML as Mavius, Lelouch for Mac. That's outstanding. I'm keen to see. Do you guys feel like, you guys have been playing together for a long time? Do you think that's been beneficial for you guys? Do you think that experience as 5 has helped you guys cement your standing here in the Pro Series and going forward as well?
Yeah, of course. I think it has a very huge impact of us playing together. I mean, for a long time, and all of us are very close to each other. And every bad losses that we get, we just try to cope and learn from it.
Yeah, that's fair. Now, you guys will be moving up against, I believe, OB Esports, right? OB Esports Neon. So, Pinoy team versus Pinoy team on paper. You guys feeling confident into that? How confident are you? Right? How much stronger do you feel you are versus OB Esports?
I think we feel very confident and strong moving to the on the way to the grand finals.
Ooh. Oh, you love to hear
All
it.
right.
That's very confident, John. Just guaranteed grand finals here for Polaris, apparently. Love to hear it. Again, congratulations on your victory, sir. I'll let you go and celebrate with your team, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very soft-spoken he was, Force. I mean, poor guy probably had his whole. It was another. It reminded me of who was it? UK was trying to do an interview, and Wami was going on with the table tennis. That's what it kind of reminded me of. But it almost sounded like they were in the bathroom together or a submarine or something, Jonathan. It was just so much echoing going on. I had to kind of ask them to calm down there for a second. But good to see that. Obviously seeming very confident, John. He did say he was going to make it through to the grand finals. And lucky we've come to the end of the night because your camera has now officially decided enough of the clear images. It's time to go pixelated, John. So great timing on your part as well. But yeah, that's it for tonight. Congratulations to them. Of course, tomorrow we do have a couple more series on. Boom Esports against Motivate Trust in the upper bracket final. And then OB Neon against Polaris Esports to finish us off in the lower bracket. And then, then we'll have one more day after that. But our second last day tomorrow of the playoffs, John, very exciting stuff. Anything in particular you're looking forward to before we get there?
I'm looking forward to how Boom holds out against Motivate Trust. I think that matchup can be a lot back and forth. We have seen Boom in that position before where they're in upper bracket, Motivate Trust. Sometimes Gate keeps them, sometimes they get sent down and they play again. So there's a lot of back and forth, a lot of history between both teams. And that should be the more exciting matchup. But of course, we just heard Polaris. We've got a Rambulan lined up with Neon versus Polaris. Should be a joy to watch. And it's great Dota all day. What can I say, Mike?
Absolutely. With that, we are going to head to bed. And of course, we will see you all again tomorrow for some more great SEA Dota. See you then.